So, Jerry, I know that you've seen Skyfall.
Yes.
Did it match the buzz for you as one of the best Bond movies?
It matched the buzz. I think out of the three Daniel Craig, when I walked out, I was like, I like Casino Royale somewhat better. The more I think about it, I actually really do like this one. But I noticed a lot of people saying they like the first half better than the second half. I thought the second half is really where the movie comes together, actually.
Where would you say the second half begins?
When he meets Javier Bardem for the first time. I would say from there on, because Javier Bardem, I first want to say something, I don't know if anyone else has said this or not. This is the most Nolan-esque James Bond film I've ever seen. Even more so than Casino Royale, because I think, they say the Bourne series influences. I actually think Batman Begins really influenced this whole new James Bond, but especially this one. Javier Bardem is by far the scariest villain or most intimidating villain since Robert Shaw. And it's no accident. This film echoes a lot of From Russia with Love in a very good way, because that's definitely one of the best James Bond films there is. But Javier Bardem is just the ultimate villain. He's insane. I mean, he gives this Heath Ledger Joker performance. I mean, he's absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
In this movie, and it just helps the movie tremendously. But Daniel Craig is very good. Everyone is very good. But I actually think when they break it down and it becomes very personal, that the film just goes into high gear. Because I think the first half they're trying in some ways too hard. All right, we got to do all this because it's a James Bond film. But once you go in, especially once they get to Skyfall, I mean, the film is in very uncharted territory for the series, I think.
I think so too. It does feel fresh, especially for the Bond films that have been thus far, with a few exceptions, pretty formulaic.
Right.
I mean, Bond kind of invented its own formula that it stuck to for 50 years. Dean, did you have a chance to see it?
I did. I liked it, but I have those same complaints with the final third that a lot of people have. I think it gets into a little sort of bickering territory there between the villain and the hero. I don't think it's I think it's one of the best Bonds of the it's out of the three Craig Bonds. It's not as good as Casino Royale, but it's better than the last one. But I don't think it's. A lot of people were going overboard and saying it's the best Bond ever. I don't think so at all. And one thing that I think is really missing from this movie is sort of, again, you mentioned that sort of Nolan-esque kind of thing that's going on in it. I think that one of the things that's missing from the movie is a sense of is a sense of humor,
I'm beginning to think you can have that, though, especially after reading an interview with Daniel Craig and Rolling Stone last night. I'm beginning to think maybe it's just I don't think we're going to get that with these Bonds, even though he begged for humor after the last film in this script. If it's not in this one, I just don't see it coming. I think the humor comes in Javier Bardem's performance, in his outlandishness. I don't know if I don't think with this James Bond in this era, we're going to get that. I mean, I would welcome it. I thought there were some funny moments in the film.
See, I did think there was certainly more humor than the other two Daniel Craig installments.
Yeah.
I thought Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace were pretty humorless. But there's actually some, for everything that the movie attempts that's outside of the comfort zone of a Bond, it brings back some nostalgic moments that lend some humor and levity.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, yeah, bringing back to Aston Martin is sort of funny in a way, and also, and yes, you're right. Javier Bardem does have those moments, caressing James Bond in those moments and so forth.
That is an electric moment, and I think that that's like really kind of uncharted Bond territory. And
that's never been done before.
It's a brave moment,
Yeah.
and I think it makes that scene come to life in a very special way.
Oh, yeah.
It does. But the film is still just a little, it's funny, when you go back and you take a look at, like, Sean Connery, there was that perfect balance of menace and comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and that's that thing that the series has not been able to reproduce. I mean, as good as some entries have been, as bad as some other entries have been, they've never been able to reproduce that sort of tightrope walk there between the menace and the humor.
Mm-hmm.
And it always goes one way or the other for me. And
right.
I mean, that said, I really enjoyed this one a lot.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And great opening sequence, even though there was a few too many overturned fruit carts for me. But
is that one of your particular pet peeves in movies? Overturned fruit carts?
Well, you get tired of it. I mean, you know why they do it, because it reads spectacular and it's cheap to do. But it's kind of like, okay, yawn. But some really great stunt work.
Incredible stunt work.
Incredible stunt work.
The standout for me, beyond Javier Bardem, is the cinematography. I mean, this is one of the, if not the most gorgeous Bond movie photographically, and there's some moments that absolutely are stunning with Roger Deakins cinematography. The fight in Shanghai and the skyrise in shadow is one just and the end. The way it ends is not in your typical outlandish Bond fashion. It reminded me of Straw Dogs.
Yeah,
they're surrounding the house and.
It was you're right. And weird. It was weird in that way. I sort of liked that.
It was very refreshing. It felt like almost a Hammer, like horror, gothic horror movie almost.
Castle, the castle.
That's true. Yeah. That's so true about the Hammer thing. It's true. It's funny. In most Bond movies, you tend to pay attention more to the set design than you do the photography. The photography seems to be there to only include the set design in its view. But here the photography actually took precedence over set design. And that was refreshing about the film, and it really does them well to have a director like Sam Mendes, and more importantly to me, a director of photography like Roger Deakins, which I don't think have they had I mean, I know that they've had really serviceable and even some great cinematographers on the Bond series.
Right.
Have they had as great a cinematographer as Roger Deakins is considered these days?
No,
ever?
I know. No, I mean,
I don't think they have. And the way Sam Mendes was able to attract Roger Deakins, he essentially said, when you read the script, read it as though it's not a Bond movie. Take the Bond baggage out of it, and just as a pure action movie, would this be something you're interested in photographing? But and the thing I like a lot about it is that they seem to have given Sam Mendes reign to make his own movie.
Mm-hmm.
We want to see Sam Mendes' version of this movie, and according to him, every idea he came to them with, in terms of plot.
Right.
They were accepting of. There were behaviors and things that he had Bond doing that's when they would step in and say, no, Bond wouldn't do that. Because they know that character better than anyone. They've lived with it in their lives. It's their life's work. But in terms of free reign to the choice of, what to do with these much beloved characters and take them into different directions and make it more personal than usual, he was given free reign.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is good. I think it's an exciting step forward and it bodes well for the rest of the series if they're able to. And Sam Mendes brought up another good point, because we always talk about the grip that the Broccoli's have over this material, and they don't want it toyed with. But Sam Mendes said that last Bond movie that a lot of people don't like, Die Another Day, the last Pierce Brosnan, was the highest grossing, and then they completely switched gears and went to the Daniel Craig. The safe thing would be to continue on that path, but they went a different way with it. So in their own way, they've been brave with it. At least these past few years.
I have to say this. I have to say this one thing though. They're bringing up Bond sort of aging in this film.
Yeah.
I mean, when they switch to, which they inevitably will do, when they switch to another Bond, like, how is that going to work? It's like,
well, it's weird.
If they get,
it's
of course,
strange.
Of course, if they switch to Idris Elba, then we've got a whole other conversation going. But how does that work exactly?
It's strange.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works, but I mean, we got 2 more with Daniel Craig, and I think he may sign on even after that.
Well, he said that he doesn't want to keep doing it. He's actually said that he kind of wants out of this.
He has said that, but at the same time, though, unfortunately, since he's taken Bond, his non-Bond roles have been, for lack of a better word, lacking. I mean, before he took Bond, he was in a lot of great movies. Munich. What is the other one? Layer Cake, God the Mother, Enduring Love, Archangel. I mean, he was in a lot of great movies. What was the one with about Sylvia? About Sylvia Plath. He was in a lot of great movies, and Infamous. And then all of a sudden he becomes a star, and it's like, all right, I mean, I'll give you the girl with the dragon tattoo, but even that, I mean, I think he's going to, until someone really, the problem with playing James Bond, now Sean Connery was able to break out of this, but it does, like, sort of pigeonhole you, unfortunately.
It marks you, yeah.
It does, and it's done the same for him, because he is trying to do other stuff outside of this, but the choices in the movies are just not that great that he's doing outside of this work.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah, I think that they'll just. I think that we're used to every time we switch a Bond, kind of the slate is clean.
Yeah.
But I see that Craig, they might be working on an arc more so than they've done with previous Bonds. Which I like a lot, and it speaks to the nature of franchises nowadays. And I thought it was fine, and I like Bond. I like the traditions of Bond, but they've never been amongst my favorite films. And this one isn't like a favorite general film of mine, even though I think it's a shining example of a great film in the series. But and I think that it's Javier Bardem and the cinematography. I mean, that's what I came out.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I know Javier Bardem brings so much to it, because, I mean, with the exception of Mads Mikkelsen in Casino Royale, the villains sadly have been lacking. I mean, this one also owes another, it seems like of the two, the Bond films do cannibalize themselves, always. And this one seems to want to really incorporate elements of From Russia with Love and GoldenEye, especially GoldenEye, in this too, which was also in some ways a reboot with Pierce Brosnan. Still, I think the best of all the Pierce Brosnans, at least to me. But there are elements of both films in this. We'll see. I think this is a step in the right. And I think what's the most important thing is it sets it up for the next film. You are eager to see where they're going to go. You're eager to go anyway.
There's also, because Dean mentioned that if there's a theme in it, it's kind of when do you get too old for this crap? But that falls in line. But
that's the theme of the movie. I mean, that's the theme.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, I mean,
that falls in line with the changing face of terrorism and how terrorism is fought now. I mean, we're in a different climate now. When do these methods become antiquated? And those two complement one another. I think that's what they're doing in the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
By the way, I want to say one thing. I've been watching a television show from Britain on DVD called MI5.
Mm-hmm.
And that MI5 show does these kind of things that are done in this, at least this recent Bond with the cyber terrorism and so forth, so much better and so much more exciting, but with less, without the Bond, over the topness. But the things are done. The stories are told with much more. I don't know, just much more tension than exists in a Bond film. It would be interesting if they incorporated some techniques that they use in that show into the Bond series.
I know what you're talking about. I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to happen because that show is about real people.
Yeah, I mean,
and Bond is about some superhuman person.
Yeah, I mean,
but,
Robert Baer, who George Clooney played in Syriana, wrote an article in the Washington Post today, and he goes, I wish, spy work just isn't that cut and dry. It's not that exciting. Espionage work, usually if you're working at the CIA, you're sitting in a cubicle most of your life, and just analyzing and looking for things that someone else might have missed.
Yeah. I mean,
that's what I like about that show.
Yeah.
I mean, first and foremost, they need to make a Bond movie. If you're going to make it different in that direction, why bother calling it Bond?
Yeah,
why bother making a Bond movie?
It's not going to work. I mean,
maybe there might be room for some other kind of spy series then.
Yeah.
So you're speaking to that with MI5, but also with what we have on Showtime, Homeland. So you are getting that kind of. But if you do that in a James Bond movie,
people would be angry.
I fire you like halfway through filming. So I mean,
I get it. People would be angry. You got to have the stunts. I understand.
Yeah.
But it might. It might be interesting just to incorporate just a little bit of it in. I don't know. It's like cooking a meal or something.
I'm just sad that Cloak and Dagger back in the '80s never made it as a franchise.
That's too bad. Dabney Coleman would still be working.
Yeah, man. That's one of those childhood favorites that, and I haven't seen it since I was probably 10, 12 years old.
Yeah,
since it first came out.
Yeah, I hear you.
I haven't seen it since it came out, but I still remember it. It's
I don't even know
movie.
if it's any good anymore. I mean, I don't know.
That's funny.